Hello. Hello all. Welcome to Skeptic Haven and thank you for watching our show. Today we're going to talk about the experience of women in South Africa under the religious and societal patriarchal influences. We have Elle and Solaris to talk about their story. Please be aware that we will be discussing sensitive issues on this episode, which may be upsetting to some. If anyone is affected by it and needs support, the links below will show links to organizations that can help. Okay, let's roll with the show. Welcome, Solaris, Elle. Nice to have you on the show.
Nice to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Great. You two grew up in South Africa, as I understand it. And we are today here to talk about that, how that was. And can you start with a brief rundown of your experiences, things you noticed that men didn't experience, things that men take for granted in Africa and that women can't? Oh, maybe.
Okay, so I made some notes, and I want to talk about like men and privilege, because a lot of men in South Africa walk around with this privilege, like everything gets handed to them. They're entitled to a lot of things that women are not. They are seen as people and treated with decency and respect, where we are not seen as people as such, but as a commodity or as something to have that they might actually use to brag with to other men. So if women are not seen as people with autonomy, we just I don't know, property. And a lot of them walk around like that. And it's not really just a South African thing. It's actually patriarchy across the whole planet. Men feel safe. They don't need to walk around feeling unsafe. Whereas we need to make sure that we look after our drinks, for example, if we go out, or that we are not alone, because that seems to be a very dangerous situation in South Africa, because men do not learn consent from a young age, because that doesn't exist, because they have all the rights towards other people, so why would they need consent in the first place? And then obviously, I don't know if Solaris was, but I was raised in purity culture, so that made it even worse. We can talk a little bit about that, but I'll let Solaris talk about her experiences a bit.
Yeah, so growing up, I could definitely see the generations before me had a very strong impact, where the women definitely were, like Elle says, you were there to serve your husband, or you were like, the trophy wife or something like that. In general, major careers went to men. Women were there to raise children and do the runaround, be the soccer mom. And society back then wasn't as dangerous as it is now. But to an extent, I would say the Caucasian South Africans are not as bad as some of the other cultures there. Like, I've heard multiple stories of young women going out and then the dress is too short, and that's like a free pass in certain cultures to do what you want because she's inviting you. And for myself personally, I was part of a family where my mom and dad got divorced early, and stories from that was the men in the family there was a particular cousin of my father who cornered my mom in the bathroom, and my dad didn't believe her. And that was one of the stories that led to the divorce. It's just like, yeah, your woman, like, she must have like tempted him or something, you know? So she can't even be protected by her husband. So that's a little bit of the stories that I have. Me personally, I think I was just too much of a dreamer and a go-getter, and I was the only girl amongst a bunch of boy cousins, so I just lived like a boy and did a lot of sport and like, yeah. What I did experience later on in life when I started becoming into triathlon, when I got into sports on another level, is I always had to surround myself with men in sport because not as many women are keen on it because they can't train on their own safely. So I had a mountain bike group of guys. And that's how I stayed fit with my cycling. And eventually I joined a club. Because if you're not in a club and it's a big group of people, you really don't have other options to train for something like an Ironman. It's just too dangerous. There's multiple stories of women being mugged and other things. So, yeah, professional athletes that get run over by drunk drivers, stuff like that. But yeah, that's not, doesn't really speak to patriarchy. That's just an uncontrolled society in general. So yeah, that's a little bit of my story. If you have any questions, go for it.
Yeah, I have a interesting perspective on this. Just an introduction. I grew up in the 1960s and 70s, and particularly in the 1970s. Not a week went by when South Africa was on the death. Of course, because of the apartheid malarkey. And there were no women in sight. Occasionally black women, but no white women. I remember an interview of some white bloke, I can't remember who had a very nice house somewhere in South Africa. And yes, his wife was visible, handing out cookies and coffee. He didn't speak a word.
Yeah.
So as far as I know, South Africa, or at least the white South African, had no women. They didn't exist.
It's exactly true. It's exactly true. If I think of my grandmother, that is totally how society was.
Well, the saying goes that women and children should not be heard. They should just be seen. And especially when there's a big gathering of men, the men's opinion is what counts. The women's opinion do not count.
Yeah.
So,
Don't know if you guys have seen that show Mad Men. It's very much like that.
Yeah, it's pretty much, that's how South Africa, I think maybe it might be a little bit better, but there's still a lot of those toxic
elements. Yeah.
There's still a lot of those toxic hooks in society. And I just want to say, we can't really talk for the other, we can only really talk for white women because we're white, but I mean, the other cultures we can't really talk about. So if we say women in South Africa, we don't represent all of them because obviously we can't. But the story is, it's just horrific. There's a lot of arranged marriages, for example, in South Africa, and a lot of those cultures. So it's really just, weird.
Yeah, there's some terrible things that I've heard. But yeah, like you said, we can't really speak for them. I can't speak their truth.
No. It makes it a bit hard, but we can only speak what we've experienced. And it's a lot of oppressed, patriarchal society within South Africa, where you are a helpmate to men, and that is it. And you need to look beautiful, and you need to be a 10 out of 10, but you can't be too much, because then that's also not good enough. But you have to also be something for the eye. I mean, you can just never win. If you're too pretty, then it's also not good enough, because then you might be a slut, or you might be a cheat, or something. But if you don't look after yourself in their eyes, then you're also not good enough. There's just too much criticism on women. They have to perform and be so much all the time.
Yeah. And the behaviors that it invokes among the women themselves.
Yes. I actually
Like,
had a
it
conversation.
becomes competition. Like,
Yeah.
that's where when you say, like, you can't be too much, because then the others are going to talk too much and you're not in the main clique, because you're now either too pretty or you're just not doing something that fits in
Yeah,
that
but
social.
it's actually brilliantly set up, because the system is set up in such a way where it pits women against each other. So instead of us encouraging each other and be like, yeah, I'm going to be your I want to be your cheerleader and just cheer you on in your journey of life, because it's not my journey, but I can support you. Instead, we want to judge each other because we have to have the same sort of journey where we need to be the best eye candy or the best this or that for men to want to marry us. And then we are pitted against each other and we start ripping each other to pieces, and it's just awful. And I had a conversation with a woman the other day about it. Where I'm like, yeah, we obviously don't have dicks, so we don't have privilege. So now we have to like judge each other and be pitted against each other. So that's just insane. I am going to take myself out of that. I don't want to be a part of it.
Exactly.
So instead, I try and be like a cheerleader for women and try and tell them, especially if somebody comes to me with a judgment of another woman, I'll be like, hey, yo, let's not do that. That's not cool. Let's support each other in this journey of life, because men are gonna fuck us over. We don't have to do it to ourselves. Do we?
Yeah, I've got like experience where I was working in a company. I was in my I worked for that place throughout my 20s, basically. And as an account manager, and we had multiple accounts taking care of clients. And I know that many of those guys were getting a higher salary than me. And I know for a fact that I could work them under the table. I had more success with my clients and better sales stats and stuff like that. And it's just it. It's like, the salaries are just not equal. And then later on in life, in a different role, it was a small company. So if you really try, you can probably potentially have like a director or a operations manager type role. And I worked with another friend, also knows her, like I've basically divorced that friend. In the place where she was like climbing the ladder with a mini skirt, and it wasn't necessary, because she actually is clever enough not to have to go to that length. And I've seen it in other companies with other women as well. Like there is a bunch that go to that extent to get the attention, to grab the attention of the gang in the boardroom. And it sometimes works. Unfortunately for her, it didn't work. But, and like, quite frankly, it brought out the worst in her. And it also invoked horrible, like, people talking badly about her, which like all of that could have been avoided. You know, it's like, if only you were measured for what you do and not like having to go to the extremes as a woman.
Yeah, but you're not a man.
If she was a man, she would have been COO with the type of effort that she put in.
Yeah, so you can't be measured for just the work you do, because that's for men. That's not for us.
That's it.
If we speak our mind, we're bitches. If we don't speak our mind, we're too quiet and shy. Like you can't win. Anything you do is judgment, because if I talk too fast, even in my workplace, men tell me to just slow down. Like I need to fucking I kid you not. They asked me to slow down. So now I've learned to actually slow down and talk slower so that they can hear the message that I'm trying to tell them.
Is that an Aussie thing? Yeah, like easy, mate, easy.
Yeah, because they can't understand the message that I'm trying to tell them. Or if I'm investigating something and I found something in the admin, I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I found. This is how I think we should tackle it to fix it or whatever. Then they're like, wait, slow down. Show me what you found. I'm just like, oh Jesus, I'm working with a bunch of fucking idiots here. But I have to do that because that's the only way they listen.
They need to authorize it.
Where they talk very fast with each other.
It needs to be authorized by someone who doesn't understand it.
Yeah, they talk very fast with each other, and they would just like talk with each other. But in my case, and that's with all the women in the office, we can't talk loud, we can't talk too fast, and we need to have all our ducks in a row when you present something, because then you're not taken seriously. And that's unfortunately the same in South Africa. But it's still the same here in Australia, sadly. Except if you work for the government.
I must say, by the end, before I left, obviously the violence and the crime and like women having to be very careful when they move around, that is still a reality. But it was refreshing for me to see that in larger businesses, because of employment equity, not the Black economic, but more equity for male and female. They got women into better positions, and especially in the banks. I had a couple of bank clients.
Yeah, but that's a law. It's a law.
Yeah,
they cannot do differently. They have to do it that way. But just like the racism
to equity, and I think then once they started setting it in motion, they realized that this is not a bad strategy, because it kind of just got more and more, because they know more women, and they know women who studied in this line of work, and like FNB, one of the bigger banks there, like that one of those retail management floors are completely women. Like here and there, see the guys, and then obviously if you go up a few floors, there's a lot of men on the executive level, but at least it's sort of filling up. It's getting some girl flesh in there. I would say,
but it's still unequal. It's still unequal if you look at CEOs. Men versus women, and then the women are shoved into the admin roles because we're the donkeys, and we can actually just smash the shit out where men are working next to a man. They're just not always there, and then because they're lacking, they start taking some of his responsibilities away and then passing it to the women in the office. And I'm like, no, wait, hang on, he's paid the same wage, so he needs to just put on his girl panties and actually get the fucking job done. Why are we distributing the load between the women? Because we can do it. We're the donkeys, then up our pay. Yeah?
Yeah. It's the funniest thing for me.
So it's still very unfair.
The funniest thing for me when I think of equal wages and women and society and expectations of society on women is there's so much more that women need to pay for. Like, like the image, like just doing our hair, makeup, all the creams, the hormone stuff, the bloody well, everything, man.
Yeah.
And clothing. Oh, God forbid you wear the same outfit 2 days in a row. I know, like women in professional jobs judge each other. If you're going to wear the same stuff too many times, then it'll be like, how you're not creative enough with your closet, and your hair, it's been the same for years. Like I'm probably one of those, in any case, but I like my hair. It's just where men, like, they throw on a white iron shirt, a tie, one of the 5 that they have, a suit. There you go.
Yeah, but also we have to
in the closet for work.
We have to be young to be irrelevant. As soon as we hit a certain age, we become invisible.
Oh yeah,
and our opinions matter.
Wrinkly and
so as soon as
into perimenopause or something like that.
So we have to not have wrinkles, because otherwise we're old, and then why would they listen to us? We're just old, irrelevant women.
Mad thing comes in, like the secretaries will always have perky, and those are the only ones that could surround the executives, and and
it puts a lot of unnecessary strain on women, because now they feel irrelevant, and they have to do anti-aging stuff to stay relevant.
Yeah.
Where
yeah.
now I've seen even in the media, women that want to age naturally, like your celebrities, are being horribly treated in the media because they just want to age naturally, whereas a man can just age naturally, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, he's so handsome."
Yeah.
The women are like, "Oh my gosh, she's a witch! Look at this witch!" It's just unfair.
Yeah.
It's insanely unfair.
I must admit that. I mean, I work for Rotterdam municipality, and the department I work is roughly half men, half women. But the kind of things you mention are very much there.
Yes. Yeah. It's subtle. Like no one really
It's everywhere.
talks too much about it, but it just it's normal. It's seen as normal. It just is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is so sad.
The patriarchy is very in your face in South Africa. It's more subtle in Australia. Where racism is very in your face in South Africa, it's more subtle in Australia as well. So it's not gone. It's there.
Yeah.
It's just very subtle.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I could definitely feel in South Australia there's still a definite imbalance in women in power. Completely imbalanced. There's a saying between some of the Aussies, it's an old boys' town. And I could feel it when I was job hunting not too long ago. I could feel it. I had to go to a recruiter. I went to a woman who's got a recruitment company, and she sorted me out. She's very well connected, and she looks like a supermodel. So she's the one that gets into that boardroom and tells them, "I've got this candidate for you," and she smooth talks them, and that's how you get in.
And I bet she has to talk slowly too. To get the message across.
Naturally does, like the what they say here. What they say here in Australia is speak like the king and the queen. Yeah, speak like the king and the queen. So it's slowly, clearly, articulately,
and it's insane.
Yeah. I watched an episode of Bluey. I've been watching a lot of those with my 5-year-old. And they said they call the toilet the dunny, and then Bluey's mom said, "No, you can't say dunny. The Queen doesn't use those words." So yeah, very proper and slow and
Yeah. That's purity culture. That's what I was taught.
Purity culture, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like Victorian style, that old Victorian is slowly trickling through into modern society. It's like holding on for dear life.
Yeah.
Ooh, that brings me to a cool story about bicycle face. Have you guys ever heard of bicycle face?
I've actually heard of that. Yeah.
What is bicycle face?
And it's true.
Yes,
this is a true story.
From the 1800s, when the bicycle was invented, everyone got really into cycling, and women also started cycling. And it was the Victorian age where women were wearing these very big dresses that covered their legs all the way down. And they started wearing, what did they call those, bloomers under their dresses, because that allowed them to at least be covered up to their calves. And then the dress kind of gets thrown back, but the bloomers are exposing their lower legs. And, yes, oh my God, poor woman. And they started obviously enjoying cycling, and because women were so very dependent on men and carriages to arrange to go somewhere and meet up with other women, they now had more freedom to go to each other and form little societies and friendship circles and complain about the patriarchy. And
so just to interject there, so just remember now the women are starting to become independent, where they do not need men to come pick them up to go to places. So this is important.
Yeah, it stated clearly in the history that there was a very light panic because of the independence that women were gaining. And then doctors came up with a diagnosis called bicycle face to discourage women from cycling.
That only women get. That only women get bicycle face.
More prominent. So everyone can get it, but it's very prominent in women. And then it's like exacerbated and flushed. Like, of course you're going to be flushed. Your heart rate went up. You're doing cardio.
Yeah.
and yeah, like what?
Maybe in Dutch, I recognize the story of women and bicycles, and essentially for them a vehicle for independence.
Yes.
And that was it, and still is very much the case in the Netherlands. I mean, you must know that. Well, we love bicycles.
Yeah.
And that's both men and women.
Yeah. I loved like going there and seeing like the women. My God, what they do there with bicycles. They have a full like grocery situation. It's like a car, but it's a bicycle. Like there's 3 kids in the back. They got a full grocery basket going on in the front. It's amazing. I was in awe when I was in Amsterdam looking at this bicycle situation. There's a few.
Just to get back to the bicycle face, so the equivalent bicycle face these days still exists, where men will just say things to put us off. Maybe we're just a bit irrational because we have a lot of emotions. So therefore, we can't be leaders or CEOs. There's a lot of these equivalents of bicycle faces everywhere, where women are just not good enough, and we should be deterred from.
It's called gaslighting. Gaslighting.
Yeah.
Not gaslighting going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Bicycle face.
Yeah.
I'll put on my bitch face and be like.
There was another one, bicycle fever or something similar along the lines. But it basically also comes down to.
You remember that riding a bike would mess up a woman's organs.
Yes. That was also.
That's the one. Yeah. That's the bicycle fever where they thought the uterus will drop out.
Yeah. We'll just drop out.
It's too bumpy. Your uterus is going to drop out. Like really. I guess
insane.
like if women weren't very active, if they were just sitting around looking pretty, like especially the ones that were the trophies, not the actual hardworking women. I guess if you didn't build up any core muscle, that might actually be true. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but remember, it's frowned upon because you need to have feminine features. So if you're going to do a lot of exercise, you might have muscles, and that is a masculine feature. So we cannot do any of that. We have to be these feeble, weak, dependent things where men will come in and save us.
Never break a sweat. Always
God forbid something happens with that ego of theirs. So just have to come in and save the fucking day.
Yeah, have perfect hair and a hat that's there on somewhere. Yeah.
I must admit, there is a bit of this to this that is very middle class. I grew up in more working class surroundings, and I mean those attitudes to women working, women breaking a sweat were not a problem. But my dad's aunts, who were very middle class, were very aware of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame. I really like the more we progress and move forward in modern society, and obviously having more platforms where people can discuss these things and break some of these trends. It is liberating to see free young women like just doing what they want and empowering themselves. And some just find the loopholes, like they're just creating loopholes everywhere now. So that's good. There's so many ways for women to find economic freedom at the moment with the type of ways that you can make money online. And I'm sure AI is going to release a new bunch of powerful women as well. So, yeah, it's good. It's nice to see.
Yeah. Elle, you mentioned something twice now that I want to go back to. You mentioned beauty culture.
Yes.
You were firmly part of that, you told me. Can you tell a bit about that?
Well, sex is for marriage. If you partake in any sexual activity, you're seen as rotten, and there's not much that can be done to cleanse you. So you're seen as dirty and rotten. So the saying in my family was, vroeg rijp, vroeg vrot, which you would understand, which would mean if you're early to ripen, you're also early to be, what is vrot in English?
Rotten.
Rotten, yeah. If you're early to ripen, you're early to rot, basically, which is really a horrible thing to teach young girls. And that was the same saying if it comes to shaving and wearing makeup and doing any of those things that can be seen as what grown-up women do. So if you're like a teenager trying to experiment in something, that was just very hard. And I was just not a normal teenager, not by any stretch. So yeah, it was just very hard to grow up like that. So along with all that comes a lot of shame and guilt, because obviously your hormones kicks in at whatever age that might be, but it's very young. And then you will have urges and things happening to your body, but you cannot explore it, and you must ignore it, because it is from the devil and it is unpure, and it's only meant for your husband to explore you. You're not supposed to explore any of this, because woman doesn't like sex, and it's a duty you perform for your man.
And even masturbation.
One man.
Even masturbation is dirty.
Yeah, that's dirty. That's just bad.
Yeah. It's like next level dirty.
Yeah. It's a devil's door. It's a devil's door, and the door ring of the devil or something like that. Yeah. So I had a lot of horrible shame and guilt that I took with me into adulthood, and it just eventually makes you a horribly suppressed, miserable person. So purity culture is just all around bad, because sex is seen as bad. You're not supposed to explore anything. Men has all the rights to you. You're not taught consent, because it doesn't exist, because you're actually just an extension of his pleasure for him, and that's how it is. So you need to be prim and proper, not say much, not have a lot of outbursts or emotion, really, because you're supposed to be this well put together person or doll. And then you get married, and then you're supposed to pleasure him and be there for him and be his helpmate. And that's what purity culture is, and that's what I was taught. So it's just very damaging to not just women but men, because men didn't learn that women are actually a partner. They've been taught we're just something to have, to brag to other men with. So they actually are harming themselves, because they are depriving themselves of having this very awesome, deep, intimate relationship with another person, a woman, which they do not have. They will have maybe like close relationships with their friends and their buddies, because it's a dude fest, and they don't have that with women, and it's really sad. So purity culture is not just hurting the women; it's also hurting men.
It also causes a lot of divorce, because people, as you mature later on and realize you need that more deeper connection, like when life gets hard, especially when people have children and stuff, they really need to support each other emotionally. And then they realize, who am I married to? And women just get out. Like women that were forced to be at home and don't have any work history have to go and start their lives fresh with no experience in the workforce and things like that. There's I don't know about you, Elsie, but when I was growing up, most of the families of the children in my school had divorces.
Yeah.
It's like a normal thing. Oh, my parents divorced me, and it's so bad. Like a broken family is so terrible for early childhood development. It's a nightmare. I kind of blame that my brother is he's got a lot of hang-ups in life, and it definitely is because of that. So yeah. Anyhow,
Yeah.
sorry, go for it.
I mean, the image I got from your story, Elle, is Stepford wives.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Stepford wives.
Stepford wives.
Yeah, the expression from a movie. I don't know the title, but it's essentially robotic women.
Yep. Yeah. And yeah, we're not seen as intelligent either. So yeah, you're just an extension of property of a man that he can brag to other men. And you're supposed to raise his children as well. And that's just your purpose. And that should be fun for you, right? And it should be fulfilling. So why are you complaining? You're fulfilling your purpose of being a helpmate and raising children. And then so you don't need a career. So what Solaris was saying is women will then get out, but then they're just so much behind men and when it comes to career and their superannuation and retirement funds because they have not been working. I mean, I had a man tell me that my purpose is to be a mother and to stay at home. And I'm like, yeah, but aren't you divorced? And so your wife did what I did. So what were her options after you divorced her? Surely you're supporting her still because she didn't have anywhere to go, anything to do. And now you want me to do the same? It doesn't make sense to me. And so I had a massive fight with this dude. He was very much older than me, but that was him telling me at the age of 24 what my purpose in life was. And yeah, that was really bad. I had a man tell me at the age of 30, it's now time to retire and have your kids. And you're still in the workplace. What are you doing here? It's time for you to retire. At 30, yeah.
That choice of words, retire and have your kids.
Yeah, at 30. Yeah, my life is over.
Yeah.
I don't know, but my 30s were like my fast years. That was like the years where you dominate. Like that was a really great time for me.
Yeah.
I feel so old now.
I mean, I remember this was in the 1980s when my sister, she's 10 years my senior, had children. She stopped working, took care of the children, and she hated every day of it.
Yes. If men don't want to do it because they pawn it off to the women to do because it's not a fun job to do. It's supposed to be a partnership that two people do because you wanted to have a child or children. So then it's a partnership because it's hard work. You can't just pawn it off to the women and be like, yeah, you're born for this because this is how you're made. You're made with more emotions and you've got more love in your heart. So you need to look after the kids. That's just a man pawning it off to women because it's a shit job. It's a shit job.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a talk with my sister several times, by the way, about this when she was there. And I encouraged her to go back to work as soon as she reasonably could. And she did. As soon as the youngest one went to school, she went back to work and her life improved measurably. In just her happiness, whole outlook on life. Children, family are never enough to fill a life.
No, because you're a person. So you're not just a wife or just a mother. You're also a person with your own career and your own ideas and your own dreams and your own hobbies. You're a complex person. So you need friends and you need activities and you need whatever the hell you need that ticks you. But there are other things than being a mother, and you cannot just do that. You will become depressed. You cannot just be a wife or just be a mother. It's insane that that's your only purpose in life, is to rear your own replacement in this world. That is depressing.
Yeah. You're just serving that little human. You love him to bits, but you're technically the servant of that little human, and they are very, very a tough man. It takes a lot of work, and It's exhausting. It's exhausting on a mental and physical level. You're constantly having to educate and nurture like these developing emotions, and you kind of forget who you are. So if you're not going to have some time to have a hobby and or have a job that is intellectually stimulating and have adult like relationships, you are going to lose yourself. Like there was that doctor that committed suicide in New Zealand with the children. Her husband was too busy working. It was during COVID, and she was stuck at home with 3 kids. And
I think I heard about
it's a very
this.
sad story. You can go and look it up. But she was so depressed and mentally like burdened. She ended up murdering her own children and then taking her own life. Oh no, she didn't take her own life, but she ended up murdering her children because she was so exhausted. Like we need help. We need a society, like a circle of people to help us. We need breaks. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they did it back
So
in the day.
yeah, so men expecting women to just do that because they are made for that somehow. They're made for that. It's just horrible. It's just horrible. And then also you're judged if you suddenly don't like that job that's been assigned to you. Then suddenly you're a horrible woman and you don't have a lot of you've got a hard heart because you don't have a lot of love, because you don't naturally just take to this job of being a stay-at-home mother. And yeah, it's just you just cannot win. So if you and even if you reach out and say I need some help, somehow you're being judged because you're just shit at being a stay-at-home mother, because somehow you just need to get everything done. And I feel like that's just unfair. The other day I saw women in the shops, the 4 children, 2 of them running around, 2 is in the trolley, 1 is screaming his head off, and this woman, she was losing her shit. She was absolutely losing her shit in the shop. And I thought to myself, where is this partner? Where is where's the daddy?
I can't even go with my one kid. It's
you cannot shop alone with 4 kids.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane. And I could see she was at her very, very end. That she was, it was just, then I feel like, that's just not fair. It's just not fair.
I would grab 2 of those by the wrist and I would say, you sit here now.
I have misophonia. I was getting out of that shit as fast as I can.
One of those little rides outside of the shop. Put in $3 and say, you
yelling women and yelling children. It just drove my anxiety and misophonia to the roof. I was like, where's the cheese? Where's the cheese? Where's the cheese? Cheese, please just jump out at me. I need to go. I need to go. Yep, this is not for me. I didn't have children for that very reason. Yes, thank you.
It's hard. I really don't know how they did that back in the day, to be honest.
Yeah, my there were 7 children.
Jesus. But I mean, I guess the ladies met up and they kind of just made it work. And in South Africa, they were lucky because they had servants. So there was some help with kitchen and house. Where, I don't know, like in Britain and other places where they don't have that, unless you're very wealthy.
Only the rich. And I mean, my mum grew up in a society where domestic staff was a bit more widely available, but only to the middle classes. Of course, working classes were the domestic staff.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, my mum did work housekeeper for a bit in the 1930s. And she didn't like that a bit, by the way, but money was needed, and how to that go? And wages were terrible then, by the way. I think she was paid 5 guilders a week, and the ordinary house rent was 10 a week.
Wow. Yeah.
So that was very poorly paid. And
was that bad compared to men as well, obviously?
Men were, of course, I mean, I don't have numbers at hand, but yes, men were paid more. The idea of equal pay gradually started to run into society in the 1970s and 80s, and even today there are pay differences between men and women doing the same work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, what I see here in Australia is women tend to work 3 or 4 days a week. They don't do a full week after they've had kids. And what I see in schools, like the schools keep having these events in the middle of the bloody day, and then they invite parents to come. I'm like, people work, you know? Like, when am I going to see my kid do this little show and that little thing? Where in South Africa, I have to say, schools were a little bit more aware that people work. So they would try and have, like, if there was an assembly that parents had to attend, they would try and make it early or after school. Where here they don't care, they just make it like in the middle of the day. If you can make it, great. And most of the moms who do the 3-day work week or whatever, they tend to be able to go. So now, yes, you're working, at least then you're getting the gratification of work, but you feel like a dog because you're not at all of these events that are held on in like impossible times during the day. Unless you have like super flexibility with your job, you're not going to make it. You just have to feel like a dog every once in a while, and it's not your fault. So, you have to be a great mom, a great career woman, in good shape, not age. Yeah, that's it.
Top task.
Yeah.
I mean, I've not been married, so I don't really know that kind of stuff. I'm not particularly, I don't have children, but it sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and homework. There's homework now. So,
I see that we're roughly running to the hour. I'm wondering, let me just scroll back a bit. Oh, yes. I wanted to tune into the role of, let's say, culture, religion in your upbringing. Can you tell a bit about that?
So religion played quite a bit, played quite a big part. Sorry, in my upbringing, and it's still like that. So even schools in South Africa, they would do prayers often in class. They would do prayers at the assemblies for kids. If, like Solaris was saying, parents would attend, they would just do prayers. They will do prayers before a sports event. Like, it's a normal thing to pray. And a lot of the people are really very religious, and they're not ashamed to just say, I want to thank God for this. I want to thank Jesus for this. I want to just say my accomplishments or this that I've won or whatever is due to God. So this is the normal thing for people to say and to do, and it's in. I don't think there's a major atheist movement in South Africa at all, and this is just for my own, like, I'm not really sure what it is, Baptist upbringing, Christian, whatever. But there's a lot of religion in other cultures in South Africa as well. That's just as bad, and yeah, people are like, it just, even in the cultures where men are seen as even in those religions, men are seen as more important as women. So that just carries on in life and in the workplaces. So yeah, it's very, very prominent. It definitely was in my life and in the places that I worked. I don't know what Solaris's experience was with that, but with mine, it was really, really very prominent, and it was everywhere, all the time.
I was in a family where my grandparents, on my dad's side, was very religious, but they had 2 naughty sons. So they always spoke about religion, and my dad, before he passed away, was very religious because he had he went through a very serious heart surgery, and he made it, and it was all thanks to God, you know. And so, but they never really, we never went to church a lot, really. We always like had a prayer before we had dinner, but it was the same prayer. It's almost like a rhyme. Sometimes it didn't feel very genuine. Sometimes it did. I know when we were waiting for rain, it got really serious. You know, asking God for some rain. But yeah, I guess my experience where religion and the impact of it between men and women was very clear when I went to my brother's wedding and my cousin's one wedding. That one, he had a wedding that ended in divorce, and then he got married again. But that the postures that the whole wedding ceremony, the way that they preached the vows, you know, everything that they say before it's time for the husband and wife to like commit themselves to each other, is it's almost like they not warning, but creating like this is what needs to happen in your relationship. And it's almost like they are preempting that the woman is now becoming the servant of her husband. It's in the gospel. And you will serve him and blah, 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 blah. I mean, my fuck, seriously? Is this not two people who are in love with each other? They want to share their lives with each other. They have an equal role to play. It's almost like, oh, here you are. You're all dressed up. You paid a shit ton of money for your dress. And there's this dickhead telling you you're going to be a fucking slave for the rest of your life. I'm sorry. Like, really? I sat there and then they're like, close your eyes and pray. And I'm just like sitting there. My husband and I look at each other like, no ways. We had a very alternative wedding. He's an atheist. I guess I am as well, because I don't pray anymore. I don't know what I am. Anyways.
You're Solaris, that's what you are.
So yeah, we had a very interesting wedding where our vows were just to each other, and our pastor was actually an undertaker. And no one heard what we said to each other because the waves of the ocean was too loud. Do you remember hearing us, Elsie?
I think I did, because I was standing very close.
Yeah, you were the maid of honor. You were right next to me.
So yeah.
But I remember one of my husband's groomsmen saying, because he's a very famous, he used to be a famous radio DJ, and he had a section that he wrote in a magazine about our wedding. And he said, the best wedding he's ever attended, like people were barefoot, no serious, like swearing in of the slave to the committing. And he's gay, so he's like been liberal, very liberal his whole life, and he tells it straight up what it is, as it is. He does not have a filter. And he was just like, this was so wonderful, and as it should be. The vows were private and absorbed through the noise of the ocean. That's something I remember about that. So no one could hear like this man standing there talking for 1 hour, putting you to sleep with his like written warning. Like, what are you getting into? Please just sign the paper afterwards.
Yeah, you know? And the normal thing for weddings is the holding of the hand, and then everybody bows their head, and then they pray.
And you know, some of them that like blow on the trumpet. So this was like the next level one at my brother's wedding, where they do the whole trumpet. It's a kudu horn, you know, like the antelope kudu. They have this religion. It's one leg of Christianity there that like blows on the horn. I don't know where they got that, but yeah. I don't know who they call it.
Yes, wedding trumpets.
Yeah. I mean,
I've never seen anything like that.
Because some people take it very seriously. Like that's like their gospel, literally. But I just think it's a fucking joke. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And that was basically the weddings of our family and how I was raised, and they still like it, and they still like that. I mean, yeah, it is what it is. I'm just happy to be away from that and to be out of it and to feel more like myself and free. Because as you can see, I'm a very colorful person, and I was always like that, but I had to suppress myself quite a bit. So.
And I mean, a lot of people put up the image that they're this very religion just to kind of fit into society, but they're all having premarital sex and like breaking the law, all the laws, the commandments. I thought about it the other day, like, someone who loves you unconditionally, but he gives you commandments.
Yeah.
Like, really?
And the first 3 commandments is you have to love me with all your heart. Like, this is 3 commandments. Like, you have to love me. How do you force that onto somebody? Love me or you burn in hell.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Yeah, I of course, but sorry, reading the text. Never mind. Well, I've about run out of questions. If there's something you like to add,
I really can't think of anything else.
I mean, well, I would just like to mention that Solaris mentioned earlier that she's happy to see women start thinking critically and breaking free of patriarchal systems. But also I want to mention that some of the men, especially young men, are being left behind. And so it's also important that we do talk about this and then we do try and help them. Is it the women's job to help them? Is it the abused woman's job to help them? No, I don't think so. I would think men would need to start talking to young men and tell them that, the systems are like equal now and women are people and you need to treat us with decency and respect. Because a lot of them just feels left behind because now where's their privilege? Where's their rights? And they always thought they have rights to sex and they have rights to women and they don't need consent. And now suddenly things are changing.
He's pushing back. So they were standing around the barbecue with the old guys and the old guys are talking the talk. And then when they actually hit the real world and they have to start making a life for themselves, they realize, no, that is complete and utter bullshit. It doesn't work anymore in modern society. Sorry.
Yeah. And that there actually needs to be a person that a woman wants to choose as a partner, as opposed to women are now don't have other choices and they need to be dependent on men. And those days are gone. And so there's a lot of men feeling left behind because what is their purpose if their purpose isn't to provide and to have a woman and to and so what are they supposed to do then? And so a lot of them don't even work on themselves or are interesting people that can just like have conversations with women and be interesting and be a partner that woman wants to choose. So
I remember that when I went to school, that wasn't part of the lessons. I mean, I got that because my mum was.
I taught you how to roll a condom down.
No. I mean, yes, I think.
Yes, I know.
When I was 15-ish, 16-ish, one of our religious education teachers demonstrated that, and he almost got fired for it.
No, but men wouldn't be told these things in school because men have privilege and everything will fall into their lap. So why would they need to be taught these things? And that's why you're part of the generation that wouldn't be taught that. And I'm not even sure if that is what's being taught these days to young men, but there are a large movement of young men that is really following Andrew Tate and things like that. And so they have a lot of bad messages and bad ideas.
terrible example.
And there's a lot of women not wanting children anymore for the very same reasons, where women are realizing what's in it for them. Nothing. There's nothing in it for them. They're literally being a slave to a small person, and they don't have help. So why would you do that? What's in it for them? So women are not having children anymore. They don't want to get married anymore. And men are thinking, oh, they need to. The purpose of a woman is to serve me and have my children. And so I'm going to be upset about it, because why it's not working like that anymore? It's not falling in my lap. And men are not adapting and learning. So that's a very real issue, and that is across everywhere in the world. So, and I don't really know what the answer is, but I guess men calling out those men when they see bad behavior, and when they see that, and helping men, I guess, would be a start. Because there's a lot of women movements now where we're just starting to stand up for ourselves and try, and we're supporting each other and with each other's encouragement, and that's good. And we're starting to break free of all this bullshit, because we were taught that our biggest value is in our looks, and then suddenly, if we want to be relevant, that's where we need to keep it. Then you hit 40, and then suddenly you're not relevant anymore. And then you go like, but what? Wait, I'm relevant. How am I not important to the patriarchy anymore? And then you keep judging other women, and we keep the system and the toxicity going. And women are waking up at 40, and you're like, what? Why am I not relevant anymore? Because I'm losing my looks, so I've lost my value.
And all their hard-earned money just going into all of the stuff that's being advertised, beauty products on social media.
And women shouldn't be waking up at 40. They should be waking up at 20. That's when they should be waking up. Because between 20 and 40, they're serving the patriarchy like a fucking donkey. And when they're not relevant anymore, they start waking up, and they're like, what the hell is going on? And women shouldn't be breaking free at old ages like that. They should be free from young ages and actually just living their life. If you want to like have one night stands and go horsing around and have awesome 20s, go for it. No judgment. That shouldn't be frowned upon. That should just be that you exploring life and you exploring people, and there's no shame and no judgment in that. Whereas that's not what we were taught.
As long as it's all consented.
Yeah. So it's just insane.
Yeah.
I've got an observation being a new migrant in South Africa and seeing South African couples, how they struggle, because they come from families where the granny was helping the mom and the domestic helper was helping the mom, and the dad was just doing his job. And the mom had a career. Like there's usually a double income in a house that can afford to immigrate. And so they end up here, and the woman is completely on her own. Lucky for me, I've got a partner who equally helps with everything. But there's marriages that like fall apart the moment they come here. The men had egos because they had their little group of who knows who, and that's how they got into their jobs. If they didn't have like a specific a degree that they studied, like they network very well and easily, and because the men are at the top, so they'll easily get something a little bit more towards the top. And then they get here, and sorry, there's no network here, and you need to be humble. You need to, like, the egos are completely broken down, and they have to be an equal partner. So they just like have really they struggle to cope. The guys, the woman's like, I know it was going to be hard work because I don't have my mom and my domestic anymore, and they kind of, it sucks and it's hard work and you're tired, but they knew it was coming. Where the men, like, they really struggle. Their egos get bruised very badly because they're now having to be the nobody. Because you are nobody when you get here. It doesn't matter how clever you are. And you need to really work on not pushing your ego, because in South Africa, men are very egocentric. It's very much keeping up with the Joneses and talking about your earthly possessions and your pretty wife,
car,
like
your pretty wife, your car, your big house,
all that stuff. And then when you get here, they don't give a shit about that stuff. and they don't know who you are, and you bragging means absolutely nothing to them. They put you to work. If you're on a sponsored visa, they put you to work, like they make you work for your money, and because you need to like prove yourself so that they can do that second round of the visa, which is your pathway to your permanent residency. They make a slave out of you. The guys are suffering. But yeah, so it's really hard work, and they need to really learn to have a deeper relationship with their wives and be a equal partner in things around the house and parenting. So yeah, some divorces that are going on, and others that just had to work through some shit. And yeah, and if they get through that, then obviously good, then they're solid.
Yeah,
So it's
all the
really
better.
tough journey. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for your contribution to this conversation. I learned a bit, so you did well, and hope to speak to you again. Enjoy your day or night. Oh, you're in Australia, so that'll be evening.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you
It was
so
a
much.
good conversation.
Okay, well, then bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.